Okay, so let's get started. So a really, really big announcement. October 1st is going to be a PortraitStudio sale, brush sale, and a sale on the private tutoring prices for anyone booking for the December curriculum. For the winter curriculum. So usually in the winter I take 2 weeks off, but in those 2 weeks and in November, students start booking then. Between October and September is the fall, and winter is November, December, and then winter is also continues on until like February. It's the longest one. Usually students crazy book for the winter time because everybody's inside, nobody's outside, nobody does anything. And then we go into spring. So fall semester's actually already started, but in September will be that in October, so that's already been booked for a lot of students already. So hopefully by the end of October, everyone gets the slot that they want for private tutoring. But if you're not interested in private tutoring, it doesn't really concern you. For anyone rebooking, currently running curriculums have to reserve their slot if they want to continue into December. Then we have the brush sale and the PortraitStudio sale. If you can wait, please do wait. If you're struggling with the current price and you want PortraitStudio, if you're having trouble with it, please wait until October 1st. You will get it at almost 50% off. I do this once or twice a year. I think this is the second big sale. I've done 3 sales, but the one sale in the middle was a little bit not so much. So this big sale is going to be in October, so please watch out for that. If you can, just wait. I use PortraitStudio in classes if you're always interested in how it works and what it does. I'll be using it today actually for figures. We're going to be talking about figures and fluid gesture and all that. And then I have not posted the resource pack, but I will very, very soon. I've just been very busy with life, busy with teaching and running my school, and then busy with trying not to die. I'm just in a really, really tough spot right now with my back, and it's just looking bleak. It's looking bleak. It's like the entire horizon is visible to me, but I can only see it through a cross section. It's like the whole world is right in front of me, but I can't see it. Only a small little sliver of it, because every other latitude and longitude is just taken over by pain, and it's become so hard to do anything at all. What are some other announcements? Patreon, I'm not sure if you guys have time, honestly. The Patreon meetup is going to be the 4th. Tuesday the 4th is going to be our meetup for the portrait lecture that we're going to be having. So if you have time to finish an entire rendering, it's a 2-parter for the homework, but if you're interested in joining as an apprentice, you have some time left to finish the homework. If you are interested in submitting any other homework for that day, usually the challenges are a little tough. Apprentices like to sign up and just stand along and just watch other people's homework and get in on that extra lesson in the month. But those who want to attend and be a part of the lesson, an integral part of the lecture in the critique hour, if you want your homework to be complete by then, you have some time left to sign up, read the assignment, and then follow up with the, and then hand it in for the due date. We do everything through the Discord channel. I think that's it for announcements. Yeah, that's it. So I chose a couple of pieces to look at today. The person who posted this said, what makes you uncomfortable when you look at this? Or what do you think is uncomfortable? So let's talk about gesture. What makes me uncomfortable when I look at it is the fact that the rotation in the arms, it feels like it's more arms than torso. It should be more torso than arms. There's also 0 overlap. The arm is, well, wrong pencil. The arm is beside the torso, which is beside the other arm. There should be an overlap. Arm, torso, and arm. And that happens when we have perspective. So in PortraitStudio I set it up already, and I'm just going to try to keep both open so that I can show you guys both windows. Sorry, I don't know why my mouse is like not following the window bar that I use to move it. It's just stupid. So what I've done here is rotated it. So if you can have a look. So this is front view, and this is how you did it. I also rotated the head to the side. And this is perfect front view, but even in front view, there's a little bit of an overlap. See how the breast is in front of the torso? But what you're doing here is you've rotated the torso and the arms are not rotated. The arms need to be rotated because look how the arm is now behind. So that's rotation when you're stacking, when one object is in front of the other. And everything starts off with the symmetry line of the torso. Where's the torso facing? That's going to decide everything else, where everything else faces in the gesture. So that's why we draw the gesture line of the spine first. All right? So the gesture line of the spine can be the actual spine, can be the front symmetry line of the, see that's what's confusing. Either you're drawing the front symmetry line of the torso or the spine itself. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't really matter which one you're drawing, it's just which one is most prevalent for the gesture at the moment. So you see how this is the front symmetry line and this is the spine, the actual spine gesture line. It would actually be more like there. So it's okay to draw either or. I think you guys get confused between the two. Don't get confused between it. There's this line and there's this line. And in PortraitStudio, hopefully I will actually, you know, if Lord Abu blesses me with it, I will actually get a little marker where I can draw right on top of the screen for you guys here so I can actually show you what's going on, which is something I'm still waiting for, Abu. But there would be a line right here, and there would be a line right here, okay? So this is what made me uncomfortable with your drawing. I love the face, I love what you're going for, but I don't like the colors. The colors are a little bit off. But the fact that the torso was just this flat, ironed out, it looks like she gradually turned into a paper towards her torso. Okay. Another thing that you could do is just rotate, oopsie, rotate some of the, oh, right. Rotate some of the torso backward so that the legs are facing forward a little bit. You see that? So now we have a second twist. So twist number one is the face facing forward, which is what you want. The second twist is the arm in the back just being raised, and I have to just work on the arm a little bit here. Okay. So, I'm not sure which line it is. I believe it's the blue. There we go. Okay. I don't know who's calling me right now. Who's calling me? Okay. So I'm trying to make it so that the elbows feel a little bit more natural, and it's really off. What makes a figure feel uncomfortable is low elbows. If the elbows are low, it's an uncomfortable figure. If someone's elbows are free and high, they're a little bit more comfortable. So we move that by moving the arm. And playing around with the figure in PortraitStudio really gives you an idea of what part is responsible for what. So I'm just rotating that. Actually, I'm going to do it like this. Okay, so I'm rotating the arm forward because her elbow is down. And I'm rotating this one a little bit more forward as well. Still getting the controls. Just so that she can stick out her elbow a little bit so as she's casting her spell. Another thing I did before I started the class is kind of tilt her body forward. I tilted her torso up so that her neck is actually behind her torso, and I lengthened the neck a little bit. So press W and you can actually lengthen the neck. Okay. Oopsie. There we go. Stupid controls. Okay. I don't like the new PortraitStudio controls. I like the old ones. I'm an old lady that doesn't want to learn new things. but they're much more intuitive. Then I'm going to rotate the whole body back just a little. Since the legs don't matter, I'm not moving them. But I do recommend that you have some of the legs present in your gesture. And what I would recommend as a position for the legs is just the slowly walking position. So just like a slow walk, like a float, like she's floating. Okay, so what we've got here is just a bit of a float. Alright, so now that we see what's happening in the reference, the shoulders are low, your shoulders are high. The torso is in front. Look at the side view. The torso is in front of the body. It's okay, I rotated the body backwards. See how the torso is all the way out here, at least in this model. Right? And I'm just going to add a little bit of a kind of tilt down, like she's superior or she's strong. And I would actually tuck this in even more. I actually really like a more bent knee. It's a little bit more elegant. And now you have this beautiful twist in the silhouette. Just look at what's happening. Outward C shape. I'm just going to take a screenshot of this since I don't have access to that. Outward C shape for, never mind, I'll put it there. Alright, so let's track this down as a gesture line combo. Outward C shape there. See that? Alright, and then this one is an inward C shape. And then we've got the shoulders pretty low. And then the collarbones all the way in the back, where the neck is behind the collarbones. Then we've got these two facing forward completely, where this part of the body faces this way. And this part faces this way. The arrows really help reveal. So look at those twists that you have. You've got this beautiful asymmetry in the arms, lots of breathing room in between, and a high elbow that means flexibility and comfort. The character is not shy, they're comfortable with what they're doing, which shows off a sense of glory or something like that. And you've got stacking. The breasts are in front of the arm. The little indicator is hiding it, but the breasts are in front of the arm. The arm is behind. Arm joint, breast circle. Okay? And these are the lines for it. So what you were missing is you were missing the stacking and the twists. You were also missing this three-dimensional quality in the way you painted the body and the arm. You're also missing some perspective. So we're seeing some of the lower part. So you've drawn what you were comfortable with, which is a head facing perfectly forward, and just perfectly level with the camera, so comfortably. So conveniently. So what I would do is just start off by having this open so I have my reference. Baby, going down to the riptide. I've been singing that song all day. I'm sorry. Abba was like completely annoyed by it at this point, but I don't care. Okay, so I'm going to start off by twisting. Holy God. This is the liquefy problem that I have right now. See that Photoshop? This is what I pay 25, 35 bucks a month for? For the love of God. Lowering the shoulders down. Just like that. I'm going to tilt the head up just a bit. That's giving her a little bit more pride. Shoulders are nice and low. There's also perspective in the shoulders to see how this line is higher than this line, so the lines go down like that. So you've got one shoulder higher because one arm is doing something different from the other arm, whereas one arm is allowed to hang. Son of a bitch. Look at this. For the love of Frank. Don't know if that's gonna work. Let's see. Okay, so one arm, one shoulder is higher. One part of the chest is in front because she's rotated. And this means that the C shape of the chest and the perspective of the chest plate, the symmetry line of the chest plate faces this side. Alright, so if I were to show you, if I'm trying to explain to you which side faces where, I'm just going to show you where in the side of the canvas. If there were two eyes on each section, where they would look. So this chest is facing this way. Chest is facing this way. And that means the arm has to be tucked in behind a little bit. And arm was very, very off. Very uncomfortable looking. Very large. The scaling in your anatomy was just a little bit disproportionate. And then the other arm is kind of distorted with all the magic, so I'm just going to let it do its thing. The next thing would be repositioning the belly button so it faces forward. So now she's doing this beautiful twist, almost like a ballet twist. So you see, all your questions are answered when you actually get to engage with the way the individual, it's like getting up and doing the gesture yourself. You're reminded of different aspects and components of the mechanics of the body. Things that you would never have seen if you had not been exploring the model or the physical actually getting up and doing the gesture. Okay, so I'm moving the belly button here, but I'm showing that the belly button is also getting a little bit stretched. She's kind of just tucking in her chest, tucking in her stomach, which is pushing up her chest. And the belly button right now is really underdeveloped, but from where it is at the moment, it's helping achieve that twist in the torso. The torso, the most difficult thing about the torso is just making sure you have perspective. A torso experiences perspective. Write that back. Everything experiences perspective. But even in a standing gesture, I think what you should write back is, even in a standing gesture, a torso experiences perspective, or a torso is under perspective, even in a standing gesture. Oh, support tablet PC really did stop the jitter and liquefy, so there's that. Torso experiences perspective. Thank you. Thank you. I was leaguing last night with the fellas, and I don't know if anyone was there. But I do after hours if anyone's interested in joining us for the evenings. We do have a little bit of fun. A lot of bit of fun. Okay, just trying to keep this elbow nice and high, comfortable. Doing it then. Alright. Before. After, a little bit more elegant, a little bit more perspective. One thing that I would do is just grab this entire head and tuck it behind torso just a little bit more, just to show that she has that outward chest movement. Do you see what that did? That little bit just kind of pushed her backward, threw her into the background. And then the arm needs correction. There's only so much I can do with liquefy. Okay, relax. I mean, I can't really redo the whole arm in here, but I can do a little quick gesture. For the legs, what you can do is, I'm just going to try to get the shape of the legs out so you can have at least some kind of really, really cool transparency. So one is longer and one, oops, and one is a little bit more like that. And then we've got the shins and the calves. Oopsie. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to show how the light's just peeking through. What am I doing here? Can't make it go all the way down because then the canvas will be a little messed up, but do you see how low she is in her canvas? And then merge down. And I'm just going to use the background color as if that's the color of the light source peeking through. Wrong brush. For the love of God. Okay. Okay, and then I'm just going to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Maybe like a little bit of translucency there in the dress, and I'm just going to give it some layers. And it should be more intense light the more high we go along the silhouette. So just somewhere up here the light should be a little bit more strong. And then I'm just going to delete this section. Okay, so another thing that you could do is just move the whole body backward and put the legs in front. Alright, but now I gotta do the belly buttons, so. Okay, so I don't have pen pressure anymore, so I gotta turn on this for pen pressure. Okay. So that means the belly button is just going to have some basic rendering, really, nothing too intense. Alright, I need to edit this brush. Shit dynamics. Okay. It's like it has pen pressure, but like not all of it. I'm just giving the belly button some definition. And then I'll finish off with some color correction. But I'm trying to make it so that belly button is facing forward. As for the chest, you don't outline boobies. Don't outline boobies to render them. Breasts are a little bit more complicated than just a simple outline. Give the chest plate area its own value and then radially climb into the breasts using a highlighter because it's just a hill. So brush number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. If she's got like this massive like rack and the whatever it's called corset is pushing her chests up, her boobies up, then it just means that you just have to remember that it's more of the same tracking values as you would have in a radial form study. Right, so you're not outlining the boobies, you're just stacking organic form studies, which isn't that difficult to grasp. So this is something I always assign my private students. These form studies are really underrated. They help you break down the most complicated of anatomy groups or muscle groups. So instead of us outlining with black outline and being line dependent, we've actually sculpted the breasts outward. I'm going to give the collarbones, this is just some simple guesswork, I'm going to give the collarbones some shadow and then some of that. Right. Maybe the this chest is experiencing a cast shadow or two. And then the same exact, but in opposition, the shadow of the cleavage is radial, and this time we delete inward. It's really, really simple. Oh, wrong brush again. Alright, so a little bit more realistic sculpting. And then the belly button is now facing forward like the legs. And then I'm just going to give the belly button a touch more work. Okay, so let's take a look at the before and after now. A little bit more details that we wouldn't have picked up without a reference. The, sculptable reference or removable reference. Details we wouldn't have been able to pick up just with our visual library. See how forward haunched her body was, almost deformed? And you can even go to the level of doing this to the chest since we've added that perspective on the face. Pushing it up and pushing the shoulders down like we're looking, like she's looking down at us. I'm going to shrink the size of her head just so I don't have to enlarge the body. Oops, that's the opposite of what I wanted to do. Oopsie. And then move her down. I'm going to move the ears down to signal the perspective of the head. Since she's tilting her head up, we see her ears is lower. See how low her ears are? They're lower than the nose line. Now I have to turn off tablet PC again. God damn it. And then this arm, for the love of God Almighty, this arm can be a little bit more, I guess that doesn't work anymore. A little bit more rotated forward, like I rotated this one. See, well, I can't do, I'm at a limit right now. I can't really do it all. Oh, I didn't press apply. Okay. But I'll try to do most of it so you guys can pick these little changes up. And the belly faces forward, and this part faces that way. There's a little bit of a distortion in the belly to reveal the twist. Okay, so before, after. So that's what made her feel a little uncomfortable. As for everything else, your background is more saturated than the character. The color is demanding all the attention and the character becomes secondary. I know it's fun messing around with the whole, silhouette thing, but if you're going to make her have a silhouette... Wait a second. Didn't I already critique this a long time ago? I swear to God I've critiqued this. The crow and everything. I don't know. What was I saying? If she's going to be in a silhouette, if the light's going to be behind her, then she should be much darker for this whole business to make sense. And that means that her magic here is going to be reflecting on the side of her body a little bit more, which you do have, but just not enough of. So what I'm going to do is shift the background color to a little bit more blue. Brighten it as a whole. Select inverse, grab her, and choose a darkness color just like this. Go to darken mode. And these are the sweeping. Look how big my brush has gotten. And I'm darkening her this dark. Probably in a new layer is best. I need to turn on my tablet sensitivity again. And go back to the background. And then get the dodge tool and give you what you need for your silhouette. And the cheesiest thing that you could do is just have a big ball of light behind her. What you can do is just do something a little bit more elegant, like halfway mark is where the silhouette's coming from, or the silhouette's coming from below, just like that, and some is at the top or behind her. Okay, but at the end of the day, you still have all this magic to consider. Oops, select inverse. That's happening on her arm. Okay. I'm also going to color correct her. Let me shift her over into some blues and some cooler tone. The thing is, she's got yellow on her. See that warmth in the yellow? That's completely throwing off your palette. But you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. As for the magic has become the secondary, or probably as strong as the primary, but acting like a secondary. Color dodge. Color. Merge down. Just going to use dodge tool. In order for a light source to be a light source, it has to be white enough. Just the way you drew the magic is just, it's just like a big chrysalis. I mean, it's not really doing it. It doesn't, you could have had some really cool gestures wisping around like magic pieces, but instead you just did a big blob of nothing. So try to rethink that. But new layer. And I'm just deleting away at the side of the body, because that's where the magic would be sourcing from. Baby, going down to the red. Just increasing saturation. I'm just making it weaker towards the top. Alright. Next thing is I'm going to grab this universal color and I'm going to use that to illuminate everywhere else. So the chest, the arms all get that blue of the environment she's in. So she doesn't just get her own colors, she borrows from her environment because her environment is surrounding her. And that's how you unify your characters with their environment. You grab the color, the most strong wash, and that's the color that's visible on the character. Merge down, merge down. So before, after. And now we get to have a little bit of fun with some hot spots peeking through. Just a touch or two. Before, after. And then finally this framing job that you did here, which is just really, really bad. She's so small in her environment. Before, after. I would actually, let me see if I can pull it off. I would actually try to add even more perspective. This is gonna look really funny, but just give me a sec. I'm trying to tilt her head. Now I'm laughing. Trying to make it so she's kind of pushed her head back a bit more, see that? And if that's the case, that means we wouldn't really get much of a lower cheek, I mean the chin line. And that chin line, where are you? That chin line would, why aren't you working? Oh, there you are. Would be more of this value. Is my support tablet on? Okay, well my pen pressure's completely just shot. How am I supposed to finish the rest of the session? Fuck my life. Fuck my life in 2 pieces. Okay. Alright. Okay guys, well, I think that's it for Critique Hour Forever. It's all over. Everybody go home. Pen pressure's off. Why? Why aren't you, like, doing the right thing? Alright. So, what I'm going to do is just use lasso instead. One of those days, eh? So a little bit of light under her. Her head's still a bit big for me. I'm just gonna shrink her head one more time. If I restart Photoshop, I will probably get my pen pressure back. See how big it was before. Time for a new PC? No. It's not my PC. Before, after, before, after. It's still at the end of the day, a really, really boring composition. She's perfectly centered and the light is perfectly behind her and everything is aligned towards the camera. What you could have done is something a bit more different in regards to where the elements are, what her gesture is, how her gesture may fill up the canvas just a little bit more, just something like that. Maybe show a little bit more of the lower side of the nose. I just tilted her eyes up. Okay, so before it was like she was coming towards us, but if that was the case, if she was coming towards us, then it would be more like that, and her head would be tilted up. So we wouldn't even have a neckline. But before, we had a perfect neckline. Do you see how the neck disappears when a character is going towards you? I forgot how to turn off the indicators. Abu, forgot how to turn them off. In any case, that's her headed towards us, and that's her kind of looking down at us. To see how much more ahead the chest is, until the chest actually hides underneath, and that would be her looking down like that. Okay? So before, after, a little bit more perspective, a little bit more pride in her chest. Any questions at all? We have issues with pen pressure here. It's usually the computer's memory crapping out. Yeah. I'm just going to restart Photoshop, and hopefully that'll work. Click on the model's name and hit joints. Hit hide joints. Okay. Photoshop. Okay. Hi, I made that one. Oh, okay, Nelson. Have you been watching the whole time, or did you just join? Thanks for class, wonderful as always. Oh, thank you. It's not done. Are you going? The song is now in my head. I know, it's just stuck in my head. Alright, so let's look at the other pieces I picked up today and talk about some perspective. So for this gesture, what's happened is it seems like this part of the body has, let me just check pen pressure. Okay, great. This part of the body has ribs. Sorry, that took forever. And this part just doesn't have ribs. It's like the spine is here, the shoulders are here, the pieces are here in the back for the shoulder blades, but the ribs here just collapsed. And so the boobie doesn't have anything to sit on. And so everything is squared except for this part, which is flat. You get it? So the boobie slid down. It's kind of just like sliding down, tobogganing down the hill. Do you see what I just drew? I drew the torso cube with a piece missing. So this is where the piece should have been, but you had all of this shaved off. Do you see that? This should be your aha moment right now. If you used a reference, you didn't read it properly. So let's fix Senorita over here. I'm just going to delete yes and then add. Oh, perspective is the same. Alright, so what I'm doing is showing you how in this perspective she's actually laying down facing the camera. Alright, the boob is higher. So, how am I going to do this? I'll just layer it down. Tilt up the torso. Tilt the body that way. And just pretend like she's laying down in the same way. One shoulder is higher. A little bit. One shoulder is lower. Of course, there are always constrictions to using a mannequin like this, but it's still a vast pool of knowledge that we didn't have before. So look at where the chest, look at where you did the boob. Look how much lower it is in the perspective. How it's beside, on the side of the body. This is the side of the body, so again, I don't have the marker. So I'm just going to draw. You see how slow process, step by step, diagram by diagram, figure drawing is? Whereas in portraits, we just go zoom, 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 one fundamental to the other. And the reason why it's so much more slow on a figure drawing session is because there's so much anatomy to consider. So this is the torso, and this is the side of the torso going down into the obliques here. And what you have is the breast is a little bit breaching the outside, but definitely not down here. And in yours, this would be the line of the torso. So I'm just tracking down where the trend is of the stomach. Look at the stomach's trend. And then the breast is all the way down here. The breast should have been somewhere over here, a little bit higher, but still down because of the perspective. And it should have been a little bit more bottom heavy than top heavy because of the way breasts move towards gravity. So, okay, so that's where you had your issue. The torso completely collapsed. So how I would fix this is go into liquefy and then kill myself. God damn it. Alright, please work. Please. So I'm starting off with the outline of the breasts, and then the top of the breast should reveal the perspective. And again, it's about climbing the values, not so much about, I know the nipples are completely off. Outlining the breasts. It's more about showing them as an elevation, as an organic blob, a form study, just doing their thing with gravity. Okay, and this breast here is a little bit too visible as well. And this one should be a little bit more obvious in elevation, and then you have that downward C shape that breasts have leading to the top. I'm trying so hard not to say no. And then bottom heavy. And then you see this again, the front perspective line is not there. And the belly button isn't following it. And you have no rib cage at all. You have no rib cage anatomy in this entire area. The outlines are good. The nipple placement could use some work. I'm trying to do that right now. God, I hate boobs. Okay, and then just giving them more body and then squishing them back down from the top only. Again, gravity is revealing their shape because they're a low density object. All right, so before, after, a little bit more perspective applied. And less of a Renaissance kind of boob, the kind of boob that was out of the way boob, not a natural breast, more like a Michelangelo breast, which makes no sense. It's like they invented their own boob anatomy back then, which was kind of dumb. Istebrak critiques the classic masters. Yes, it's finally happened. She's gone crazy. And I'm just gonna raise this this shoulder and make sure that it is beside the body, so a little bit more stacked. And I'm pushing this guy more forward. And then this whole armpit area is not stretched enough. But you see how now the side of the body has more breathing room. And there is an inward indentation for female bodies out here. The belly button really isn't reading as a belly button. It's reading more as like a butt crack or a hole than the kind of shape that a belly takes, especially if a woman is sitting. All my girl watchers right now know exactly what I'm talking about. The belly button was a bit high as well, now that I found the waistline. Okay, so everything seems to be good. Let's jump into some painting. So we've got this entire breast is completely distorted. That's okay, we fixed it. And then we've got the chest space. There needs to be more brightness here, and that leads us towards that rib that you were missing, which we didn't have to really represent as a shadow, primarily just as a highlight. The fact that the rib juts out catches some light. And then we have the top of the breast catching some light again, and then the lower part. And the cast shadows over here are so shy. Your cast shadows are so cautious. So this is more anatomy than gesture. And if you are having trouble with more anatomy than gesture, you don't do gesture studies. If you're having issues with gestures, I mean with anatomy. The reason being is that gestures aren't really going to help you learn where belly button goes. You learn where a belly button goes by observing some reference, and that's where you're having issues right now. The belly button should be more facing that way, and then you've got the little pudge, and I don't know what that was, but now that's fixed. And then you've got the lower piece catching the light, the upper piece, the rib, the other rib, and then just the fact that the entire area of the belly is lower and in shadow in comparison to the upper part. And so this entire area gets shadow, and it's like a C shape entire area, C pattern, gets some light, just like that. And then where I'd put the other nipple is somewhere there, because it's being stretched by the arm, so it's going to distort its shape. Alright, so I know I'm going to get flagged for this video, but fuck you, YouTube. I make like $5 off of you anyway. My videos are too long. Alright, and then collarbone's completely missing. Collarbones are more like a simple line of light and a simple line of shadow. Don't outline collarbones from the top down. Collarbones cast shadows down. And then you've got the indentation. It's just a lot of stuff. The indentation right before the shoulder joint starts. Just there. Not really sure what's happening with my brushes today, but it is what it is. Actually, these collarbones would be a little bit higher. God, I don't even know what's going on with Photoshop right now. Do you guys see this? It's like the paint doesn't want to come out the way it's supposed to. What the fuck is going on? I have no idea, but whatever. Okay. And then this needs a complete redo. And I'll show you the before and after and how symbolic you were drawing, but also just a little bit classic style anatomy, which isn't a bad thing, but also it's not a good thing considering how many more resources we have in this age compared to back then, where an artist pretty much had to guess their way through what a woman's body looks like or had very little access to perfect anatomy studies. And also less sciences to explain, or less athleticism in females, so the body type was very, very unathletic. And then you've got the radial shade. So see, the majority of the breast is not shadow. The majority of the breast is light, and the only shadow you do have, the only opportunity to define it is to, oh my God, is to cast the shadow radially. It's okay, I'm on a separate layer. And I'm just gonna delete it with a hard round brush that I can't find. So the breast is not in the fact that it's a shadow upward. There is a core shadow there. It's mostly in the fact that it has a cast shadow. See that cast shadow? Okay, and then you've got a little bit of a climb towards the top, but really not that prevalent, unless there's a lot of light, but I'm not sure, honestly, where your light is even coming from. But let me show you anyway. Same thing we did before, but this time up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just climbing up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the chest plate catching some light. And then for the shoulder, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you don't just keep it there, you delete it. Also be careful not to disrupt the contrast. I've pretty much been explaining every single brush stroke I make. Is that annoying you guys, or what do you guys think about that? Let me see if there were any questions. If you have any questions, write at Istebrak for me to find the question. I can't find it in the chat at the moment. Oh my God, the gradients are so dirty in this piece. There's just a little bit of an edge that slowly tapers towards this side. And just like that. Okay. Incredibly annoyingly helpful. Oh, hi, Litmo. And then this is not so sharp. Tapers again. Slowly starts to mold back into the face, into the body, sorry, and then we have the core shadow. Sometimes there's some bounce light on the breasts, just a touch. Sometimes there's bounce light on the arm. It's a beautiful little addition of that volume. Sometimes there's a little bounce light over here. Some things that you're missing are the hip bones, which catch light, and then the depression of that little area there, I don't know what it's called. And then the stomach of females cuts off as soon as the uterus starts, because the uterus kind of holds it back. So have you ever seen a girl with a hysterectomy? Kind of just, everything depresses down because the uterus isn't there to keep that whole stomach area from collapsing into the pelvis. So you have this little extension here of flat land, sort of, before the crotch starts. If she's a mermaid, she can still have all that. And then I'm just showing that little bump just there in the rib. I still have a problem with this chest, but I'm really having trouble figuring out why my Photoshop is being like this. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if it's the pen. I really don't know. Like, you should reasonably be darkening at this moment. Like, right now, you should be getting darker. You should not be getting lighter. What is going on? Jesus Christ. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know why nothing's working. It doesn't matter. Okay. And I'm showing the core shadow here of the breast area. Same core shadow here on the side. Right, a little bit more circular down. Okay, so the contrast in this belly button area has to be intact. And it's mostly image size. It's mostly in the fact that, you know, I don't really have anatomy or detailed anatomy in the belly button area. Just something like that will do. And then the highlight travels all the way in. Just like a nostril. You see that? And now it feels a little more complete. Alright, so this whole section is bothering me, so this whole section might need to be moved up or extended somehow. Alright, any questions? Any questions? Please write your questions. Don't ask me about where to start with art though. Try to stay close to our theme today. Yeah, it is right. It is a correction. It is the right thing to do in this case, but I'm doing it wrong. Alright. One more attempt. This whole area needed to be depressed downward, and it's just this little thingy that you have here that's throwing me off. Okay. And the nipple placement would be somewhere in the halfway line. Okay. One last little thing would be finding the overlap of the arm and the back. Just making sure everything has accurate placement. And that would mean just something like that. See how it's on the inside? Alright. I think we need to go into black. There we go. Okay, the left arm is looking a bit off. I'm thinking a bit too short or shaded poorly. The left arm. It's tucked in the back. I have no problem with it. What do you think is the best way to do anatomy study? Trace and then draw from memory, or should it be done like a photo study? Photo study, if you don't know what trace over diagrams are, ask the audience and they'll tell you. I don't have time to demonstrate it right now. Or you can go into my video history and look for trace over diagrams. Do a trace over diagram of a body part. Then look at the body just as muscle structures. Study the muscle groups. Don't memorize muscle groups. We're not students of medicine. We don't need to be wasting time studying every stupid ass Latin word and showing it off to our friends. It's about memorizing. It's about visual memorization. It's not about verbal memorization of the muscle groups. It has nothing to do with that. If you can do like those swirly, twirly, I don't know what they're called, but those twirl diagrams of muscle groups. So that's a line that you don't pick up off the paper and you just keep drawing swirls. Then there's just separating the muscle groups and piecing them back together. There's sculpting. There's actually getting a body and just holding it. If you have a significant other and they're male or female, doesn't matter, you can go in there and just hold them and feel them. You'll feel how the body indents into the side for the z-axis of the cube. You'll see how arms have really cuboid type of indications on the forearm and very, very squishy and flabby, which is an indication to use larger, wider gradients, a bigger brush across the map. Just so many ways for you to interact with your reference, but just make sure that you're interacting with it. You're not just looking at your reference and transferring stuff back and you're just staying in the 2D. The best way is to just have a variety of ways to experience the reference, okay? How do I know where the boob starts? You don't. That's what your problem is. The boob doesn't just start and there's a line indicating that the boobie has started. The boobie starts all the way from the collarbones. Like all you girls, come on, fill yourselves up. Hold your collarbones for a second and then just press down and tell me where you start feeling boobie. Boobie starts just like right under the collarbone. That's where boobie is, really, to be honest with you. It's not that low. Even in girls that sag a little bit, it's not that low. Because the entire chest area of a female is completely different from a male. We'd have to really work out that area and take a lot of hormones and shit like that in order to get a masculine type of an altitude to the chest area. It's all just squishy flab. Breasts start really high. Don't worry so much about where the breast starts. Worry more about where the breast ends. Sometimes you don't get highlights on breasts. All you get is just the radial shadow and that C shape, that downward droop of the breast. Can we have a class focusing on boobs, female anatomy? It's really hard for me to understand the boob anatomy. Maybe we'll have a whole class on boobs. Like the one we had for hair. So you guys just draw boobs and then we just look at boobs all day? Does the flow need to be higher? It wasn't the flow, I don't think so. Did Istebrak extend the canvas or is the arm like that? I think I extended the canvas. No, I took a screenshot of the picture. The arm isn't like that. I'm sure they didn't paint it without an elbow. I find the stomach area looks off to me. I can't figure out why. It just feels kind of stiff. I don't know. A torso is an unmoving thing. It doesn't really have joints in it. An arm can look stiff because it's got 3 or 4 joints in there. 1, 2, 3, 4 that you could engage, but the torso has no joints really. I mean, the spine is one big joint, but it's multiple joints. I mean, 2000 is what I did. Okay, so before, kind of flat, kind of that classic, not realistic female body. And after, you have a bit more of the fat, more rotation. We've replaced and moved around the chest. This is what was bothering me with the boobs. Found it. I'm just going to leave it here. Okay, so before, after, more volume, more picking up things on the z-axis. Okay. And then we've aligned what's happening with the chest with the breast, so the breast doesn't feel like it's collapsed. Any more questions? Nope. I have a very bony upper chest though, so it feels like it starts lower than the collarbone on me. It's different for every girl. Of course, every girl has different breast size, but what I mean is that there's a sliding effect from the collarbones down to the top of your breast that is not a chance for you to have any kind of line or edge, and unless you were wearing a crazy corset that hiked your boobs up higher than Mount Everest. There's nothing that can do that naturally, so when we're talking about bare breasts, there's more of a droop, so we have more of a gradient moving down. So this entire section is what I'm trying to tell you. This entire section here can be completely gotten rid of, and we wouldn't miss it. That entire line can be completely gone. This entire line completely gone. This can be completely gone, and we wouldn't miss it at all, because that's how breasts work. They kind of droop down into a C shape. This sign, this little gradual line, is the gradient line. What is the best way to block in the organic forms of the body, like boobs? Or you don't block organic forms. You can block in, but you have to remember that you have to enlarge your brush and really smudge at it. So you can block in the main core shadow of a lip or a breast, but you have to go in there and redo the gradient, which is more work than it's really worth. So I would just always, what I do is when it comes to an organic pattern, I start a new layer, do all my blending, do all my radial shading, and then erase where I need to. That way I didn't have to block, because you're getting rid of more of the block than you're keeping, which makes no sense at all in even trying it with a block. A block is for, a squared brush is for a block, a soft brush is for a gradient or an organic pattern. Try not to use a brick to, try not to use a brick as a pillow, okay? Would we see any of the armpit? Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to sketch the armpit because I don't have time. Class is done. We would see all of this. We would see the whole armpit area, just like that. So this needs to be shaded. An edge needs to be made. You need to see, show some of that little droop down between this joint and the chest. What would you do with the gesture of the tail? I would do something like where she's sitting like that, or maybe she's sitting, you know, like a girl. If she's a snake, I would do something like coils behind her, and then a coil at the front, and that's what she's leaning on. She's leaning on her own coil. The hair, you're trying to throw it off to one side, but then you have like a balance. Either throw it all off or don't. That way you're showing more of the feminine neckline out, which looks a lot better. Okay, so I'm just gonna close up shop. Thank you everyone for watching today. Any questions before I get going? So if you are interested in buying PortraitStudio, I mean, you guys saw what it can do today. You can go to the store and purchase it there. For those who are having difficulty with the price, there won't be any sale until October 1st, so please wait. It's just a month that you have to wait, and you can get it at half off, or almost half off, so October 1st. It will be the sale. It will go on for 2 weeks. Please, please wait if you can't afford PortraitStudio. It's one of the only times that I really keep this opportunity open. I get a lot of questions on getting price drop on PortraitStudio. I don't offer private sale in price drops anymore, because that's just way too many discount codes I have to give. So I just tell them there will be a sale soon if you can wait to own it. It only gets better, and there might be a slight price increase after the sale because we've added so many new assets to PortraitStudio. Don't worry, it doesn't affect frame rate. Brushes will be on sale then. The package will go down back into something like half off as well, half off the 4. What else? And then the private tutoring prices will also be a little bit lower for the for November, December sessions booked in that curriculum. And then there's Patreon if anyone is interested in that. We have a couple of weeks left. Well, really 1 week left. I guess I can say a couple of weeks left before the 4th. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days or something like that, 13 days until you have to hand in your homework. So if you think you can work within that time constraint, You can join as an apprentice through Patreon. There are also other tiers if you just want to support the channel. You can support as a watcher. More than grateful. That's it. Thank you everyone for watching. Let me see. No questions at all. Istebrak, your videos changed my life. Thank you so much. Not only my drawings changed, but I'm starting to notice the things you point out in portrait critiques, IRL, and pictures too, and it's amazing. I'm so happy that you think so. It really means a lot that I've changed your life, because it takes the life out of me to do one of these sessions, and it just means the world when you guys are benefiting from them. And I can't thank you guys enough for joining the live stream. It means a lot that you guys are here with me instead of just waiting for the recording to go up, which is a little bit less like I want you guys to be here is all I'm saying. It feels more like an open class, a real class. Yeah, just don't try, Jaden, to block it, to soften or do gradients with a blocking brush. It's very unintuitive. It's very backwards, antithetical. I will see you guys on Tuesday, the 28th. See you guys soon. Bye.